Allow or drop or something?
For snort?
Yeah.
Um,
It's
I'm not
just
sure.
like what it does. So like an alert would be one of them, or a log would be one of them.
Yes, we have alert. We might have more than that, but for now, for the exam, I think it's gonna be fine if you guys remember alert and log, because that's like the main ones that we are looking at the lecture, but you definitely have more options. For protocol, we have 4 options, maybe more, but like what, can you guys mention any of the 4 options for protocols? I'm gonna give you the first one, TCP. What else can I put there?
Don
UDP.
says ICMP, UDP, TCP.
ICMP, UDP, TCP. What does that mean, IP? What kind of rule I'm trying to set when I cannot read the messages on the chat, and so if you guys talk to me, I think it's gonna be a little bit better. I really appreciate that. Does anyone know why IP? So basically IP, when you want to set a rule for all the kind of protocols, you just put IP. It means all of them. Just TCP, UDP, ICMP, all of them, IP. You just put IP, okay? And then we have source IP address. So I'm gonna show you guys some examples. We can use that. What does that mean?
All IPs at 192.168.0.
Yes,
Correct?
that
Yeah.
in this range, all of the numbers, all of the 250 something numbers, the variations. What about this one? Just in a specific address, right? Just like this IP address specifically.
Is that not anything within that block?
Yes, so all the IP addresses in this range, so everything 192.168.1 something, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but no, not the 192.168.10. Specifically this IP address, this rule does not apply for this specific IP address. So it's an exception in a range. Awesome. And then we have the source ports, can be 80 or it can be any. So all ports, doesn't matter, or a specific port. What about the flow? We have this direction. So these rules applying for that rules. This is the input, this is the incoming, and this is the outgoing. Oh, no, this is the source and this is the destination. And then we have the double ones. So even if it's coming from that destination or if it's coming from that source, just like changing the terms. So applying for both directions. And what about this one? Can I use that? Yes, everybody agree? Yes? The answer is no. We don't have this rule. So if you see something like that, something is wrong, okay? And then the same thing for the destination. You can use the same sets of IP addresses. You can use any ports or any specific port. And then messages, we already know something. Oh, I think I put a parenthesis in the wrong place here in the middle. So basically the message, and then we can put whatever you want between the codes and the SID number, usually a number after 1 million. Okay. IP tables. IP tables, we have only 3 sets of rules for incoming, for things coming in. So it's the input rules. The things that are being forward, like sending for another direction, for another IP, and the output rules, like going out of our network. So basically create rules in these sets. I need help here. So how can I write a firewall rule in IP tables to block all connections from the IP address, everything that is coming from 10.10.10.10? I'm gonna give you the first thing, IP tables. What should I put next? I wanna block all connections from the IP address 10.10.10.10. So among that three options that we saw, input, output, forward, which option should we use right now? Where are we applying this rule? If it's for incoming connections. Input.
That would
out,
block input.
Input. There we go. So -A means I want to add this next rule to, I want to add that to what is that already. I want to add this rule. So that's the meaning of the -A. I want to add this rule to the input set. And then I'm going to give the IP address. So -S, I put the IP address, and -J drop. So that means for incoming connections, I don't want anything coming from the IP 10.10.10.10.10. Easy, right? Nothing.
And in that case, S stands for source.
Yeah.
Is that where we use S there?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And now I want to block all of the IP addresses in the 10.10.10 range. So 10.10.10.1, 10.10.10.2, 10.10.3. How can I block all the range in IP tables? Where am I applying that rule? Input, output, or forward? You guys know the answer or just being shy?
All three.
I want to hear voices. Just say, you have three options, input, output, or forward.
Three of them.
Take a stand.
It's the same option, right? It's incoming. It's an input. I want to block everything that is coming from that IPs. So it's input. It's the same as the previous example, right? And then the set of the range of IP addresses. So it's basically the same thing that we saw before. So 10.10.10.10/24. That's the way that we say everything 10.10.10 dot something. I don't want it. And then J drop. Very easy. It's the same thing basically. And the next one, we can also use this thing here. We can say 10.10.10.0/255.255.255.0. It's basically exactly the same thing. So if you see something like that, it's the same thing, okay? Now I want to block only SSH connections from 10.10.10.10.10. Does anyone remember which port is SSH?
22.
Awesome. So how can we start? IP tables, right? Now we want to block that connections coming to our computers, coming to our IPs. So it's -A input. It's the same thing. What do you do now?
Do you put 10.10.10.10 and then you put the port number after that?
Yes, but it's better if you just specify the port right now.
Okay.
So we basically say the protocol is TCP because it's the SSH port is TCP 22. Okay, it's not UDP 22. So we need to specify TCP and also the port. Okay, and then we add the IP address. Notice there's two dashes for D port. You guys don't forget that. And then -J drop. We also can, I think if we can also put 22 here, --D port 22. It might be the same thing, okay? Now let's talk a little bit about UFW, the Linux firewall rules. So for Linux rules, how can I block all network connections that originate from a specific IP address 15.15.15.51? I think it's easier in my opinion because it's like writing a message, like it's really English. There's no lot of tricks here. I'm gonna give the first word. We're gonna start with sudo and UFW. Does anyone know how can I block? Deny, accept, deny. Deny is blocking and accept is allowing, right? And then from, so it's basically a phrase in English. Deny from 15.15.15.51. It's very easy, right? Oh, Matt, I think Matt just add some references for that. And now I want to block connections from a specific IP address to a specific network interface, like it is 0. Using the example before, you guys have an idea?
So sudo UFW deny in on ETH0 from 15.15.15.51.
Easy, right? It's always.
It's easy. Hey, it's easy to read. I can tell you that.
I know.
I quickly Googled the UFW firewall rules, and I was there right before Matt posted it, and I'm like, oh, I clearly I am at the right place. And your 15.15.51 is the example they use. So yes, I read that back to you, but it's helpful.
Also, so have an extra. That's great.
You can bookmark it. Remember, this the practical part will be open book. So, oh man, I completely forgot the syntax for this. You always look these things up. So,
right. We're almost done with firewalls. To allow all incoming SSH connections. So you want to deny SSH connection coming from outside. Sudo UFW accept, drop. In this case is allow. And what else?
SSH.
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 22.
Or
422.
422. There we go. Now let's talk about incident response when you have some network that is infected. So basically in this case, the quarantine network is the cloud that you see on the bottom. It's isolating some part of the network. So what kind of isolation or what kind of containment we call this kind of network? Notice that there's no connection with the internet and there's no connection with the firewall. There's no connection with the internal networks. What kind of situation is that? I'm gonna give you the guys the 3 options. Does anyone remember the 3 options? We have removal, segmentation, and isolation. So on the book.
That looks quite isolated.
That's isolated. That's removal.
Oh.
You just got it wrong. So when it's completely isolated, it's removal. I'm gonna show you what is the isolation looks like later. So look at that situation. Now everything is under the firewall. The network is somehow separating that infected network, but they are still under the same firewall. They're kind of together yet. So what kind of isolation is that? Containment, that's the right word.
Segmentation.
Yes. So in this case, even being separated, they are under the same firewall. They are still sharing the same space, but the network is isolated because it's suspicious or compromised. And the last one is this one. So now the quarantine network is not connected to the internal systems, is not under the firewall. There's only internet connection. You guys remember the name? I'm gonna repeat the names. Segmentation, isolation, removal.
Isolation.
Isolation, yes, isolation. So isolation is that situation. Removal is when the quarantine network is not connected at all. Completely removed, removal, bye. When you're better, you come back, okay? Now let's talk about the regulations. So Matt mentioned about the HIPAA, which is the healthcare regulations for health institutions. And then we have the PCI DSS for credit cards and debit cards. I think basically these two are the most like complicated, or I think the most 3 questions can come from these two. So SOX, it's for publicly traded companies. And it's funny because they say, we check the financial records of publicly traded companies. So we think, oh, it's financial. It's not financial, it's the public trade companies. So basically public organizations, like general public organizations. And the GLBA is financial institutions. So we talk about stocks, we talk about financial institutions. So that's a little difference here. So don't get tricked by that 2 things. And we also have the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. So try to remember these 5 for the exam, okay? Now let's talk about network segmentations. So in this case, we have the internet, and there's a router, and then we connect to the DMZ. Does anyone remember? I think everybody, we asked that like 5 times, right? What is the DMZ? I'm sure someone knows the answer. Please tell me.
It's the demilitarized zone.
Right.
It's used
So
to protect your network. It's the public facing, sort of the outward facing. It's the part where people have access to it, like from the internet, but it sort of serves the purpose of separating your internal network from external access.
awesome. I love the public facing. It's really the definition. So we have web servers, DNS servers, email servers, basically stuff related to internet and interactivity with the user. So in this case, we don't have like a firewall protection in that session, but then we put a firewall blocking our internal network, filtering our internal network traffic. So basically, the someone help me, demilitarized. The DMZ, that's better. So the DMZ, there's no protection, but the internal network has a protection in this case, right? So we call this set single firewall. So basically we are just separating the trust zone. There's 2 security zones, the DMZ and the internal network, and the firewall is just basically doing a filter between these 2 zones. And this kind of network, there's a difference here. The firewall is doing 2 roles. It's like 2 firewalls in 1 firewall. So this firewall is creating filters for the DMZ and it's creating filters for internal network. So it's acting like a double interface firewall. We call this one multiple interface designs or service lag DMZ. You guys can see the difference. The differences here is basically that it's protecting the internal network and it's also protecting the DMZ and separating them, okay? And what about this one? We have two firewalls now. And one firewall is basically being a filter for the DMZ. And then we have another firewall being a filter for the internal network. So basically it's doing the same thing that the previous one is doing. The difference is I can buy one expensive firewall that has like two interfaces, can manage two interfaces, or I can buy two firewalls and set them in two different places. So which one is more feasible? Which one is not? Basically, they are doing the same job. And then the question is, which one is more feasible for the company? And I think that's all for now. That's a dual firewall network design. So
I
it's
think-
basically the same
Oh,
idea.
sorry, Vinny. I didn't mean to cut you there. I just wanted to add to that on the dual firewall design. I'm pretty sure even the book explicitly says one advantage of having things like that is you can have multiple vendors for the firewalls, right? You have two firewalls now. You could have two different vendors between them, and having some vendor diversity does give you some more security or mitigate some risk, really.
Yeah, because if you have different vendors, you can have different settings. So if an attacker knows how to attack this kind of firewall, maybe it's not going to work to the next firewall because it's a different settings, it's a different vendor. So it makes it even harder to suffer an attack. That's what I have for now. That's it. There's some more extra topics, and I just wanted to add that. And that's it. Thank you for watching and keep studying. I hope you do well tomorrow.
Thank you, Vinny. Appreciate that. You're coming to our TED Talk. All right, so I'll open up the rooms again. I have office hours again scheduled, and yeah, we'll come back together at 5:30. I'll do some more review of any particular topics and everything else. Any other questions about the exam? And that's about it. I'll open up those rooms. Oh, guess I gotta close the rooms to remake them.